everyone. So I'm Peppiatt, one of the co-founders and the CEO of Phrasee. And Phrasee, for those that don't know, Phrasee is software that uses artificial intelligence to generate optimized marketing language that outperforms anything written by a human. Now, we're not here to replace copywriters, so we're not about replacing, we're here about short-form language. So actionable language that's used digitally to engage with your customers and in response, make them take action and fundamentally spend more money with you when we're talking about big brands. So when we launched 3 years ago, so I think we're still technically thought of as a startup, but we're actually calling ourselves as a scale-up because we are a profitable startup. We started in a very narrow area, which was email subject lines. And since then, we've now launched into push notifications and Facebook advertising. And you've probably actually experienced Phrasee without even knowing it. So we work with some of the world's largest brands, and these are just a few of them. And so if you get emails from any of these brands, you will have experienced Phrasee. And the language that appears in your inbox as an email subject line has been generated by algorithms. So, what is AI? Now, I know there are probably a lot of AI experts. I should just clarify, although I am one of the co-founders, I'm not an AI expert. I am not the genius that builds the algorithms. Actually, previous to running Phrasee, I ran a creative agency. So I'm in a similar setup of wanting to understand exactly how far AI could be pushed from a creative aspect. But AI in general, I think one of the things that gets missed with AI is actually an umbrella term that's used for lots of individual aspects, like machine learning, like natural language generation, machine vision, and it's this umbrella term, and we have two forms really, the super AI, which is what we've just been talking about now, which is what everyone thinks is going to happen. Terminator's going to come, they're going to take over the world, they're going to learn how to outsmart humans. And sadly, we're nowhere near that, well, gratefully probably, we're nowhere near that at the moment. Where we are at the moment is what we call narrow AI. So this is dedicated AI that helps take over specific tasks. And that's where you can really, really see an improvement of this machine versus man. So I'm just going to go through into using AI to solve a problem. Now, Einstein said that if he only had 1 hour to solve a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem and then 5 minutes with the solution. And that's really how everyone should think about AI. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, we've got an innovation budget, we just want to use AI, we don't care. We're like, well, no, you need to know what the problem is and then find a solution. And you might find that it's not an AI solution. When we've got, I suppose the best way to think of it is, define the problem, come and see it, see if there's tech out there, see if there's AI that can help you and technology that can improve it. But sometimes there isn't. And we often find that when we speak to a lot of clients that actually our technology isn't the right solution for them. I suppose one of the ways to think about it is the dream. And this is again what we were just talking about, where we sort of hope that one day this is what the creative dream will be. Hey computer, it's time to run a new campaign. Can you generate me one, please? Computer replies, sure. What are you selling? Human, milk. I'd also like the Rock rescuing a cat in bad shorts, please. No problem. Give me a minute. How about this? And that's what we imagine will suddenly appear. But in fact, I think as everyone knows, and from Tom speaking previously as well, that we are so far removed from this at present. Where we are in reality is this is the current AI landscape. So we've got fragmented pieces of technology here, but there isn't one holistic approach to creativity using AI. Each piece of tech has a different use case, and they're really, really good in those specific areas. Just also to clarify, AI can be sort of a piece of code or an algorithm that does a specific task. And what I'm going to do now is just talk through where we sit on this landscape, just to give you a bit more of an idea of the types of AI that are in use. So we have two forms of AI that we use with Phrasee. We have the first part, which is natural language generation. And this is where we can generate language that sounds like it's being written by a human, sounds like a brand. So we adopt their tone of voice, we set a load of rules, and we set up and build these algorithms at great scale, and they can generate language literally on the fly, like to an extreme. You can generate millions and millions of short form copywriting that pretty much all says the same but in a slightly different way. We then have language optimization, and this is where the really clever bit. So using the data that we've got from the language generation, we put that out, we test it, we then feed the results back, and this is where it goes into the deep learning engine. And this is then where it's really, really clever, because what happens then is Phrasee's able to predict how short form language will perform in each given test. So what that actually means is we've got the two parts. We've got the generation, and then we've got the deep learning model, which means that as a client carries on using Phrasee, as it on goes, the results get better and better and better, and we're able to understand how best to communicate with your audience. So, why does it matter? So this is a great case study from Virgin Holidays, where they came to us and said, I want to increase my email open rates and test at scale without increasing the workload on my team. And the fact is, as everyone's probably quite aware, Virgin has a really, really distinct tone of voice, brand guidelines. It's all about the culture, and one of the biggest roadblocks we had in engaging with them was talking to the brand team and getting them involved in the whole process. We didn't want them to think that we were taking over their roles, or that we were going to start generating language that didn't sound like them. And so when we put them and us together, it was the perfect fit, because we were able to generate algorithms that sounded like a human had written them, like their brand voice, and it was all tailored specifically to Virgin. Now, just to give you an idea on some language generation here. So, out of these 10 subject lines that have been generated here, this one is the human control. So we always measure the success of artificial intelligence against the human control, because that way you're actually able to measure, right, what uplift are we getting? Had we not been using AI, what would we have been looking at? And so this is a typical example for Virgin Holidays. And I think you'll hopefully all agree that actually if you read all of them, you wouldn't know that they've been generated by a machine. So what's exciting about the way that it works and the platform works is it's all on the hop. So it's a SaaS platform whereby we build these bespoke language algorithms, then the user will log in, generate language, Phrasee will then predict the performance measures of each of the bits of language. We then feed those results in, and this ongoing optimization for an end-to-end model for AI, which is really, really powerful. And so what are some of the things that we look at? So it's not individual things. So when we initially started and we had the neural networks feeding, we were looking at individual sentiments, things like curiosity, friendliness, offbeat, directness. But actually people don't respond to isolated emotions. There's so much more in language that individuals respond to. So we started then looking at more and building these neural networks, and then we're finding patterns within the language that we're unable to actually explain and understand to humans. But some of the things that we can understand as humans were things like emoji, subject line length, sentiment analysis, and all of these get fed back in so that Phrasee's then learning how best to communicate with your audience. And what does that mean? Well, fundamentally, when all the brands that we work with, you know, they're looking for this increased engagement, which then results in millions of pounds of incremental revenue. And I have to say millions of pounds. I'm not allowed to give you the specific numbers, but to be fair, those are from the client themselves. So. And I think one of the things when we're all thinking about AI and when you're looking at technology providers to use, there are two reasons you need to use it, right? It either makes you more money or it saves you money. Don't just use it for the sake of it. And I think this comes back to what we were originally talking about, which is finding the problem before finding a solution, because it needs to be able to work with everyone. And these are just some examples of the fact that it works. So yeah, the future really for the next stage is hopefully I'll be invited back another time. And at that point, my dream will be, hey computer, I need to finish this presentation with a shameless plug. Sure, what do you need advertising? I'd like a dodgy man in a trench coat flashing the audience, please. No problem, give me a minute. How about this?